Hi, I'm Professor Silver, and today I'll break down the history of Ash's Lycanroc, detailing its transformation from an eager little Rockruff into the strongest rock type Alola has ever seen. In its wild days, Rockruff lived under the care of Professor Kukui. Although Kukui didn't catch the puppy Pokemon, it stayed with him anyway as it adored him, loved his food, and appreciated that he once healed its injuries. While Rockruff loved Kukui, it developed an even deeper bond with Ash. The two of them were first seen bonding during Rockruff's debut in the episode The Guardian's Challenge. From then on out, many of Rockruff's wild adventures involve playing with Ash's Pokemon and yearning to join Ash on his adventures. Personality-wise, Rockruff was playful, affectionate, and extremely friendly. Like others of its kind, it showed its affection by rubbing the rocks on its neck against those it loved. Eventually, Rockruff stepped into the limelight in the episode Rocking Clawmark Hill. During the episode, Ash discovered that it regularly partook in fight clubs. The injuries Rockruff sustained from these fights prompted Ash to investigate its exploits. This led him to Clawmark Hill. Once there, Ash watched as Rockruff struggled against a wild Magmar. Though it tried its best, Rockruff lost to Magmar's Fire Punch and Flamethrower. Since Ash was inspired by Rockruff's tenacity, he resolved himself to help it win the rematch by helping it learn Rock Throw. As the two trained, Kukui realized that Ash's training style perfectly fit Rockruff's love for battle. Thanks to the Pokemon sparring with Kiawe's Turtonator, Ash's Pikachu, and Ash himself, it fully mastered Rock Throw by the time it rematched Magmar in an epic rematch. It landed Bite, tanked Fire Punch, dodged Flamethrower, and triumphed by executing a perfectly aimed Rock Throw. After the battle, Rockruff joined Ash's team at Kukui's behest so it could grow as a battler. Immediately after doing so, Rockruff established itself as an ace in training. With no trouble at all, it defeated Hiroki's Mudbray with Breakneck Blitz in the episode A Guardian rematch. The win was super impressive, as the usage of a Z-move without much training signified that Rockruff had an incredibly close bond with Ash. Additionally, the puppy Pokemon also established its strength early on by beating Team Skull member Tup's Garbodor with the move Bite in the episode Alolan Open House. Beyond battling, Rockruff showed its power by offering utility support. Using its strong sense of smell, it searched for a Z-Crystal and Crystal Clear sleuthing, tracked Team Rocket in getting the band back together, and found the Charjabug that Ash later caught for Sophocles and So Long Sophocles. Battling and utility support did wonders for Rockruff's level. At the start of the episode A Glaring Rivalry, it proved that it was completely on par with its teammates Rowlet and Litten. All that said though, what truly bolstered Rockruff's resolve to be a powerful fighter wasn't battling, utility support, or even training with its teammates. Instead, it was the rivalry it forged with Gladion's Midnight form Lycanroc. The rivalry was born out of Rockruff's desire to prove its strength and also Gladion's wish to test Ash's mettle. Rockruff desperately wanted to win when Ash and Gladion had their first battle together, but Lycanroc controlled the field with Stone Edge and Crunch. Despite Rockruff's gumption, its opponent was simply at too high of a level. Nevertheless, Team Rocket's disruption of the battle and subsequent kidnapping of Lycanroc presented Rockruff the perfect opportunity to earn both the respect of its rival and Gladion himself. Gladion was so grateful when Rockruff saved his Pokemon from the nefarious trio that he suggested Ash challenge Kahuna Olivia's Akala Island Grand Trial. It was his intent that Ash bolster the puppy Pokemon's power by winning from Olivia the Z-Crystal Rockium Z. As Ash would later discover, the crystal would grant Rockruff access to Rock-type Z-moves. These Z-moves were far deadlier than anything that Normalium Z could offer. As it goes, upon meeting Olivia in the episode The Island Whisperer, Ash learned that beating her would be no easy task. Like with Gladion, her Lycanroc made for a major threat. While Olivia's Lycanroc was technically the same species as Gladion's, its evolving during the day rather than the night resulted in it having a midday instead of a midnight form. Besides lacking the strength of an evolved Pokemon, Rockruff was at a major disadvantage in the battle because its wish to beat Lycanroc made it super aggressive. This aggressiveness led it to bite Ash while awaiting the battle with Olivia in the episode Trials and Tribulations. That Ash reacted without anger was a testament to his maturity. When you compare his reaction to how he reacted to Charizard's disobedience, Sceptile's heartbreak, and Greninja's losing streak, it was like he was an entirely different trainer. It serves as proof that he entered declared Alola finally ready to become a champion. During the battle with Olivia, Rockruff and Lycanroc were respectively joined by their teammates Rowlet and Probopass. Rockruff and Rowlet opened the battle with Rock Throw and Leafage, but Olivia's team easily thwarted their advances using Rock Slide, Stealth Rock, Magnet Bomb, and Accelrock. Although Rockruff turned things around by stopping Zap Cannon, it also snapped at Rowlet for failing to match its intensity. Even after Rowlet outsmarted Lycanroc and feinted Probopass, Rockruff was still incensed with anger. Instead of allowing Rowlet to lift it into the air, the Pokemon refused its advances and launched Bite. Thanks to the unexpected friendly fire, Rowlet was left unable to battle. It was after Rowlet fainted that Rockruff came to its senses and realized the error of its ways. The incident left Rockruff wrought with guilt, but Ash offered instant forgiveness. He likely knew that Rockruff's rage left it unable to control its emotions. Partially as a result of Ash's compassion, when the battle resumed, Rockruff exhibited power like it had never shown before. It tanked Accelrock, landed several blows, jumped across Rock Slide, and claimed victory with Rock Throw. By doing so, it both defeated one of its two evolved forms and earned Ash the coveted Rock EMZ. After the battle, the Rotom Dex explained that Rockruff's hostility and independence streak signaled its imminent evolution. The post-battle revelation might have shed light on Rockruff's awful actions, but it did little to alleviate Rockruff's regret for fainting one of its best friends. It was so upset with itself for fainting Rowlet that at the start of the episode Rise from the Ruins, it snuck away from Ash and vented its aggression by training. After some time, its usage of Rock Throw attracted the attention of the guardian deity, Tapu Lele. Even though Rockruff wanted to beat Tapu Lele, its efforts proved entirely futile. The Tapu dodged all its attacks and put it down with Dazzling Gleam. The shame of losing led Rockruff to experience further emotional distress. After Ash arrived, it bit him without thinking, ran away, and tumbled into a river. If not for the timely arrival of Gladion and Olivia's Lycanroc, Rockruff's fate might have taken a tragic turn. Thanks to their help, however, Rockruff survived just long enough for Tapu Lele to heal all its injuries. Once restored to full health, Rockruff finally achieved glorious evolution. Upon gazing into a green sunset, it completed its evolutionary journey into Lycanroc. Rather than turn into its midday or midnight form, however, it became the dusk form. According to the Pokédex, Ash's Lycanroc was one of the first of its kind, making it super rare. Of course, when Ash discovered that Rockruff had evolved, he became filled with pride. As he'd soon discover, though, Lycanroc's emotional issues would extend far beyond its initial form and present a major issue in many of his upcoming battles. That said, before those issues resurfaced, Lycanroc proved that it was rare not only because of its unique form, but also because it could use the Z move, Continental Crush. Furthermore, after it mastered the Z move in the episode Mimikyu Unmasked, it made itself stand out even more amongst Ash's many Pokemon by revealing that it had learned its species' signature attack, Accelrock. Lycanroc debuted the move in the episode Alola Kanto while Ash was visiting Oak's lab and fighting Team Rocket. On top of a powerful moveset, Lycanroc was special in that it was a rock type that loved water. Its affinity for water was notably observed in the episode Pikachu's Exciting Adventure. During the story, it could be seen playing in snow and going for a swim. It's worth noting, though, that as much as Lycanroc loved water, it hated getting dirty. The ruining of its beautiful coat triggered within it an intense red-eyed rage, similar to what Chimchar experienced when it first used Blaze. Ash discovered Lycanroc's phobia in the episode A Masked Warning when Litten dirtied the Pokemon's coat during the two's bath time. Once Ash successfully calmed Lycanroc, the Ultra Beast Nebby teleported them both to Gladion. Gladion was surprised to see the two, but still agreed to battle when Ash made the request. Likely to Lycanroc's chagrin, Gladion used his Silvally rather than his midnight form Lycanroc in the showdown. At the battle's start, Silvally deflected Rock Throw, activated Sword Stance, used Crush Claw, and countered Bite. Lycanroc nearly turned things around by dodging Air Slash and landing Accelrock, but lost the lead after getting knocked into a lake. Between the embarrassment of getting bodied and the shame of having its fur get dirty, it couldn't prevent itself from going all red with rage. Before calming down, it refused all orders and snapped at Ash, much like how Chimchar burned him after getting leveled by Paul's Ursaring. Lycanroc apologized profusely for the transgression after Nebby cleaned its fur, but the outburst still signaled its doom. When the battle resumed, Silvally used Sword Stance, blocked Accelrock, and won with Crush Claw. Following the battle, Ash and Lycanroc did their best to get stronger. It was their intent that they one day overcome Lycanroc's emotional issues and also defeat their rivals Gladion and Midnight Form Lycanroc. Their journey of self-improvement involved many training sessions, battles, and feats of heroism. To get stronger, Lycanroc trained with Litten and let sleeping Pokemon lie, helped Litten master Flame Charge in pushing the fiery envelope, sparred with Kiawe's fire types and acting true to form, defended Lele from Lucamine's Clefable in rescuing the unwilling, and fought James's Marini in Love at First Twirl. Eventually, in the episode Tough Guy Trials, Lycanroc's rising power was put to the test against Ula Ula Island Kahuna Nanu and his Krookodile. Unfortunately for the wolf Pokemon, all that it had accomplished still left it unprepared to maturely deal with its fear of getting dirty. As a result, Krookodile dominated most of the battle. After it reduced Lycanroc's attack power using its ability Intimidate, it blocked all the wolf's advances and got it dirty with Mud Slap. As you can probably imagine, the mud caused Lycanroc to explode with rage. Although it used the power afforded from its increased adrenaline to escape from a sand tomb and even land several attacks, it still lost in the end. That's because the rage it felt left it too frenzied to listen to orders. In the end, Lycanroc lost to Counter and Crunch. Lycanroc felt immensely guilty for losing Ash the battle. Luckily, Ash was entirely unbothered. He cheered it up with unconditional love and the promise that they would train diligently for a rematch. In the very next episode, Some Kind of Laziness, Lycanroc worked to overcome its fear of getting dirty. Besides Ash, it was aided in the endeavor by the guardian of Ula Ula Island, the legendary Tapu Bulu. Tapu Bulu helped it overcome its fear by helping it understand that Ash would love it unconditionally no matter its appearance. Once Lycanroc realized that it would always be enough for its trainer and had no reason to be insecure about how it looked, it tested its newfound confidence by sparring with Tapu Bulu. During the match, the Tapu set up grassy terrain, landed Woodhammer, blocked Rock Throw, and threw Lycanroc into a lake. Rather than break out into a rage, however, Lycanroc showed incredible composure. It shook itself clean, tackled Horn Leech, dodged Solar Beam, unveiled its knowledge of Stone Edge, and ended the battle with honor. Since Stone Edge is the final move that Lycanroc learns in the video games, its usage here implies that the rock type was at an insanely high level, entirely becoming of Alola's future champion. When it came time to prepare for the rematch with Nanu in the episode of Battle Handoff, Lycanroc reaffirmed its newfound control over its temper by refusing to get angry after getting muddy. Due to its stellar composure, Lycanroc rocked Nanu's grand trial in Guiding and Awakening. Be that as it may, the battle still proved incredibly difficult, primarily because Ash could only use one Pokemon against Nanu's three. Lycanroc's first opponent, Krookodile, activated Intimidate, set up Sand Tomb, and fired off Mud Slap. That said, Lycanroc wasn't deterred. After exchanging Rock Throw for Crunch, it preempted Counter and won out with more Rock Throw. Against Sableye, Lycanroc suffered from the challenges posed by Shadow Ball, Shadow Sneak, Mean Look, and Shadow Claw. When Sableye got it dirty, however, rather than wallow in madness, Lycanroc harnessed the intense emotions it felt and used them to bolster its strength and agility. Thanks to the massive boost in power the Red Eyes afforded, Lycanroc won the battle with Stone Edge. Although not an official upgrade or ability, the Red Eyes form can be interpreted as Lycanroc's version of Blaze. With Nanu down to his last Pokemon, he summoned his Alolan Persian. The rules dictated that Lycanroc had to keep fighting despite its exhaustion, but Tapu Bulu saved the day by giving it a citrus berry. Fittingly, Lycanroc entered the final showdown with just enough energy to finish what it had started. To kick things off, it weathered Power Gem, landed Stone Edge, and took major damage from Dark Pulse. Lycanroc appeared to go mad thereafter, but only did so as to further boost its strength and prove its loyalty. Instead of failing Ash like it had done before, it endured Night Slash, revealed its knowledge of Counter, stopped Persian Z-move Black Hole Eclipse with Continental Crush, and won the match with Accelrock. As a reward for winning, Nanu gave Ash the incredibly rare Lycanium Z crystal. Lycanium Z was a unique crystal, as it only worked with the Lycanroc species. Additionally, rather than upgrading just any rock-type move, the crystal specifically turned Stone Edge into splintered stone shards. The acquisition of the Z crystal proved invaluable in the very next episode, Twirling with a Bang. Drawing from the crystal's power, Lycanroc used splintered stone shards to weaken the Ultra Beast, Xurkitree, and Blacephalon. Likely due to the power afforded by the Z Crystal and Lycanroc's mastery over the Red Eyes form, Ash thought the Pokemon ready to defeat its rival when they battled Gladion in the episode Showdown on Pony Island. Lycanroc weathered Counter and briefly controlled the field with its Red Eyes form, but its rival tanked all its attacks, used Sword Stance, activated Outrage, Brave Splintered Stone Shards, and won with the Z move Devastating Drake. In spite of the loss, Ash and Lycanroc refused to give up on their dreams. As the Alola League drew near, they increased their power by fighting Jessie in Drawn with the Wind, and some Palpitoad in the one that didn't get away. At the league itself, Lycanroc initially did little but stand on the sidelines and cheer for its allies. It wasn't until the finals that Ash finally called it into the spotlight. In the episode Enter the Champion, it squared off against Gladion's Lycanroc. The battle held major narrative significance, as whoever won the match would determine whether or not their trainer would be Alola's first champion. Both trainers had already lost their other Pokemon, so they were counting on their respective Lycanroc to bring home the win. At the beginning of the battle, Ash's Lycanroc traded Stone Edge with its rival and launched Accelrock. Although its rival countered, Lycanroc held strong, skated through the field with Bite, and dodged multiple attacks. After connecting with Accelrock, it tried to replicate its success by doubling down on the move. Unfortunately, Gladion saw through the strategy and ordered a devastating punch with counter. Thankfully for Ash, Lycanroc survived the move by activating its Red Eyes form. Although its rival followed suit with Outrage, Lycanroc not only withstood the attack, but also tore through Stone Edge and charged onward with Accelrock. The rival Pokemon tried to counter, but Lycanroc won the battle anyway, as it countered counter. By winning the match, Lycanroc achieved what no other Pokemon had done before. It turned Ash into a true regional champion. Furthermore, the victory earned Lycanroc the respect of its rival, Gladion, Alola, and viewers alike. Following the incredible win, Lycanroc joined Ash against the Masked Royal, aka Kukui, in an exhibition match. During the first part of the battle, which took place in the episode Exhibition Unmasked, it fought Incineroar. Incineroar shrugged off Accelrock and deflected Stone Edge, but Lycanroc caught one of its Stone Shards, blocked Darkest Lariat, and forced the Fire type's return by doing major damage. That Lycanroc held its own was an incredible feat in itself, as Incineroar had previously been shown to be powerful enough to steamroll through 3 Pokemon at a time. At the time, it would have been incredibly easy to argue that Incineroar was the strongest non-legendary in all of Alola, possibly even stronger than the Tapus. Later on in the match, during the episode of Full Battle Bounty, Lycanroc battled Kukui's Braviary. It used counter on Rock Slide and landed Bite, but eventually lost the match. Braviary won by landing Skydrop, slicing through Stone Edge, and using Superpower. Even though Lycanroc lost, the damage it did against Kukui's 2 best fighters contributed heavily to Ash's eventual win later in the match. Soon after Ash won the exhibition and solidified himself as Alola champion, Lycanroc ended its run in Sun and Moon by beating Kiawe's Charizard in the episode Dreaming of the Sun and Moon. Charizard thwarted Accelrock and evaded Stone Edge, but Lycanroc dodged Aerial Ace, executed Bite, and clinched the win by firing off Splintered Stone Shards. Following the showdown, Lycanroc bid farewell to Ash in the episode Thank You Alola, The Journey Continues. While Ash competed in the World Coronation Series throughout Pokemon Journeys, Lycanroc and the rest of its teammates stayed in Alola with Kukui. They weren't transferred to Oak's lab, likely because they loved Kukui and Ash didn't want to separate them from all the friends they had made. Nevertheless, Lycanroc and its teammates appeared several times throughout Ash's Journey's adventures. Most notably, it reappeared whenever Ash visited Alola and during Ash's battle with Leon. Lycanroc welcomed Ash home in the New Old Gang of Mine, celebrated Gladion's father's return in helping the hometown hero, watched Ash battle Leon in pairing Pokemon while pairing, and aided Pikachu in his Spirit Vision in Partners in Time. Though Lycanroc didn't appear in the To Be a Pokemon Master series, it's safe to assume that it's become a rotating reserve similar to its teammates. Given that Ash has also leveled up from Alola champion to World Monarch, I imagine that Lycanroc's power will only grow as the trainer continues on his quest. In fact, it's possible that Lycanroc will one day claim the title of World's Strongest Rock type. As that concludes Lycanroc's history to date, let's get to its battle record. Lycanroc beat Wild Magmar, Hiroki's Mudbray, Tup's Garbodor, Ash's Rowlet, Olivia's Lycanroc, Nanu's Krookodile, Nanu's Sableye, Nanu's Alolan Persian, a Hunter D crew member's Palpitoad, Gladion's Lycanroc, and Kiawe's Charizard. It lost to Wild Magmar, Tapu Lele, Gladion's Silvally, Nanu's Krookodile, Gladion's Lycanroc, and Kukui's Braviary. Move-wise, Lycanroc used Accelrock, Bite, Counter, Rock Throw, Stone Edge, and Tackle. It also used the Z moves Breakneck Blitz, Continental Crush, and Splintered Stone Shards. All in all, Lycanroc was an awesome addition to Sun and Moon. It had great battles, a stellar rivalry, and a majorly compelling story arc. Its inability to control its rage allowed Ash to show how much he had grown since the experience with Greninja. The patience Ash showed was commendable, as unlike with Greninja, he never once doubted his ability to help his Pokemon reach its best possible self. To me, Ash's rehabilitation of Lycanroc is an example of how he can take any problem and turn it into a strength. I wish Lycanroc got another battle in Journeys, but what we got in Sun and Moon was still great. In the end, Lycanroc helped establish that Ash was ready to not only be a regional champion, but also a world monarch. And on that, class is adjourned. I'm Professor Silver. Until next time, catch you later.